we've got a den of coyotes in Gateway Greens, and she is calling the county to see if they can go in and eradicate them.
They're in the FPL easement.
Yeah. And what they do is they're very nocturnal. They've already killed 2 dogs and a cat in Gateway, and people are screaming about it. So
we've had them running through our neighborhood.
If they come by my yard, you'll hear gunfire. My last item is irrigation system. Staff talked to Kenny, talked to Chris, and have talked to Mainscape. Have come to find out that Mainscape over the last 9 years has been furnishing to this board, I shouldn't say it that way, this entity, the CDD, and it was held and diverted by past managers. And what it boils down to is our control system of our 900 acres of, if that's how many we got, of irrigation system.
Wait, say that
Our
again?
controllers, you know, when your irrigation system, the main goes down the street, then you have a meter.
Yeah.
Well, on the other side of the meter, the water goes up and down the street, and it goes through a controller. It controls zones.
Yeah, okay.
Ours are worthless.
Okay. Yeah.
The entire system. We're talking about one heck of a lot of money, but the Mainscape has been telling us that for years, and it's been put in somebody's shelf and been told, don't tell the board about it. Well, now we're to the point where it's caught up with us. And this is on the stuff you will see when you start reading the handout. The number is staggering of what we're going to be spending to put in proper irrigation controllers, new wires, new pipe, new heads in that 900 acres. I mean, we quickly get to $2 to $3 million real fast. We need to get, in Gateway Greens, we retained Mainscape to come and do it for, they did the design and they're doing the construction. We have a little bit different situation here with the rules. To allow Mainscape to be a vendor that would bid on doing the work, which is more their expertise, they have given us 4 names of firms that design this type of stuff. That's their specialty. I've given that to Chris. What I'd like to see is carry that on. Let's get these people in here and start finding out just how bad our irrigation system is. Kenny and Elle tell me it's a piecing in what? It's falling apart. And it's not hard to anybody driving up and down the streets can see. We're watering at all times when there's water in the ditches. We got heads shooting. We got heads that are shooting in the middle, the medians of the roads, and shoot 25 feet. And it's only 12 feet across the median. We got the wrong heads.
Part of the watering that we're having to do is because we have to use, even when it's raining.
That's a separate story. Yes, that's a separate story.
It's not just because they're broken. We have to use the water.
The biggest problem is we've got the trees that since 1986, what is that, 32 years, is tearing everything up. Yeah. But that's what I'd like to have is staff, Chris, get a hold of people that do this work and start talking to us about what our options are. We found the 2009 and several years after that reports that Mainscape's given us, warning us, and we ignored it.
From 2009?
From 2009. Yep. And it's because past district managers were told to keep their mouth shut, and staff was told by the district, this is the disadvantage with the old system we had. You had the fox in the hen house.
Yeah.
Well, now we've got Chris, and if we have a problem, he tells us.
Right, exactly.
But the district
and
manager
staff does too. Kenny's been very good about it. Even though he's given us bad news, he still gives it.
I'd rather have good bad news than bad news.
Okay,
good bad news I can do something about. Bad news, it's too late.
Anything else?
I have nothing else.
Mr. Banks.
Yeah, a couple things. You know, we talked about the Lake Bank Restoration Project, and Bob had talked about their solutions, and some of their solutions were, you know, less expensive because of their littoral policy. Not to open a can of worms, but should we be looking at revisiting the standard for use of littorals? And I think it was Joe's. I think Pelican is using, who's the guy from UF?
University of Florida, Stephen Brown.
So, and he's been doing pretty much pro bono work for
He works for the university out of the extension office in Fort Myers, and he offers communities and residents alike free help because it's a public service.
And it's landscaping and
He provides service on landscaping and shrubbery and trees.
and that includes pond, aqua, what do you call it?
I don't know about ponds. Like
Okay,
that,
anyway,
but-
all right, so I'm not gonna go too deep there, but my point is, I think part of the issue with littorals is most people think about littorals and they see the littorals that we typically, that you would have around here, which are not very attractive. But I have seen some examples of utilization of littorals in other communities and other areas, and they can be somewhat attractive.
And it's also what's in the development orders.
Right, well, that's fine. So
That's the problem.
my comment is just very simple, is it time, or is there even any reason for us to revisit the littoral policy to see if maybe we can, make some modifications so it's more advantageous and,
We had the opportunity on ponds 106, 107, and 108. We left the golf course side open for littorals, and we dropped the ball and didn't put them in. If we want to do something, my first thing against littorals is right now, the soils we have, and when we dig them out and recompact them, the first time it rains, they wash away. The littorals won't grow quick enough on it.
Yeah.
So you end up having to put down the stabilized netting or banking and
Yeah.
severe Armamax. You then come back in, and what are you gonna do? Cut a hole in it to put the littorals.
yeah.
There's the
So,
problem.
I mean, and again, I'm
That's
not,
the problem.
I didn't want to open up a lot of conversation, just the fact that, hey, look,
Think
if
about it.
littorals are a cost-effective solution in some areas, and it makes sense, should we be looking at modifying the standard
We
when
really
it
should
matters?
be, we gotta be. We've got ponds that we're in trouble with right now, and we're on thin ice. Cypress Cave, the pond up there, had a littoral requirement. We haven't put the littorals in yet. So we need to be putting those littorals in as a part of the project where we have littoral
I
requirements.
believe Elle has already left, but I know that there are plans to put the littorals in. They're just waiting for the water to go down a little bit.
But the problem is though, Margaret, we gotta punch holes in the fabric that they put them in.
I don't think so in the areas they're planning on putting them in.
It's fabric all the way around Cypress Cave. Now, 106, 107, 108, the golf course site has no fabric, so it would be a perfect place to demo. But
Let's just keep it on the table and have a
I have no
conversation.
problem with littorals where we have DRI issues and requirements, because we have to do it anyway.
Someone from the audience. So of the
I just
four.
have one thing on the littorials. I know 83 does have a requirement for the DO for the littorials, and I have requested the
Yeah,
board.
have you come up, give your name.
The record,
Who are you?
For the record, yeah.
Molly Walsh with Magnolia Lakes. I know Lake 83 does have the requirement for the littorials. It's just two things. One, the reason why we don't have the littorials is because of the overspray of the copper by aquagenics. So I was really surprised to see George over here saying that he went out and planted littorials where they were died. He died. He didn't, not even one single littoral. So that is even an expense that the district shouldn't pay for, but aquagenics should take care of it. I have requested the board multiple times to bring us back to compliance with our DO, which is planting the littorials. First thing I was told is dry season, gotta wait for the wet season. Well, when Ernesto was visiting the pond the last time, and the gentleman that is out of state, that is the one that takes care of the new bacteria that's being placed at Magnolia by Elle, he said no dry season, no wet season, in the middle, because he says if it's, depending where you have to plant certain littorials, he says either be underwater or not. So right now, it's actually the right time for it. And I have come to the board and I have spoken with Al and Chris and asked for it, because we're completely out of compliance on that pond. So if you wanna start with us, go at it. There's nothing that you have to punch holes, no armaments, nothing there.
Thank
Just
you.
go at it.
And it could be a demo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
could be a demo.
Hey Kenny, is are the pool employees reporting up to you now? Not now, they're not?
No.
Okay. Then can one of you do me a favor and just circle back with whoever's managing them, whether it's Chris directly. Whoever's closing down at night, I think they're closing, either we're not opening or we're not closing, I'm sorry, either we're not opening in the morning or we're closing one of the gates over here at the soccer complex at night, which with the amount of traffic that we've had on several nights, we've got one gate open and one gate closed, and everyone expects to go out, and it's a bottleneck, which is really an issue. So if we could just make sure that we direct staff to leave the gates open and let it be up to, you know, the leagues to lock them down. I think that's been protocol. It's gotten to a point where it's really getting dangerous on that. And that's some of the, I don't know if this is you, but so we're putting up our political signs now, and I know that we're within that time frame that I think in the past we just let it go.
Yes.
And we educate Mainscape that if they move, make sure you put them back. But some up front, I think were removed in the entrance. Is that Mainscape's? Mainscape cut the, yeah, so maybe we could just circle back. If they pulled some, let us know where. And I've had a couple that have just disappeared all by themselves. So I don't think it's Mainscape, but yeah.
They got poached.
Yeah, they miraculously just kind of walked away.
Mr. Guy,
I have nothing more.
Mrs. Flaherty,
Yes, I do.
okay, go ahead.
Okay.
You're up.
I did, ask Chris about repair of the pool. Just so you know, it's gonna start about October 22nd and finish before Thanksgiving. Okay?
Good.
All right. We also have in the budget from last year a fence for the FPL easement on Griffin Drive. Is that gonna be, since Stephen Bloom isn't here, able to be used when we are able to get the FPL? Do we know that?
We can put the fence up now, right? I mean,
We don't own it.
We don't know it.
No,
we
we
don't
didn't
have
ask the
it.
permission of the landowner. I mean, the fence is not, I don't think, if I recall correctly, I don't think the right of way or consent agreement precludes fencing. I didn't double check that.
I mean, we have
As
one
long
now.
As long as FPL has access, that's the key, that FPL is unimpeded
As
access.
soon as we get that resolved, it's in the budget, so we can do it.
Okay.
I'll double check that.
All right. I did ask Chris to update us with Lee County about the roundabout on Gateway, but he didn't get back to me about that. Okay? Mr. Banks had said something about a survey, and I had mentioned about a survey during, when I talked about the budget. I think we should send out a survey to see exactly what the residents want. You said about, what is it? Pickleball, bocce.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
anything. I mean-
Right, because, you know, baseball field, I think we need to know what they really, really want, so that could be
Parks
planned
and
for.
Rec. Parks and
Right.
Rec. I agree.
So
Well, I
that-
think I would say, it would even be more general too, like, what is your overall satisfaction with the Gateway District? Do you feel like they are addressing your products? And then you can say,
Where do you
what
wanna go?
Be careful.
No, if you don't understand.
You don't
what-
wanna hear her.
I do, I absolutely do. If you don't get
What's
the
he
pulse.
drinking?
If you don't get the pulse of the residents, then what you're gonna hear is, we haven't been doing anything over the past 2 years. We're not getting anything done. And so if the
That's
residents,
true.
their perception is that we are getting things done, then great. Then we've got the vote of public opinion. If they feel like we haven't, then we need to do a better job of communicating, because we have done a lot of things in the past 2 years.
But they're just
And then,
not
you know,
aware of
I don't have to sit in candidate meetings and listen to people say we haven't done anything, when it's absolutely wrong.
And-
Still no.
A lot of
Yeah, I
the things that we've done aren't readily available.
Please, may I
It's a
speak?
great idea.
Kathy has the floor.
Thank you. All right, so yeah, that's why when we were talking about the budget, I did mention the survey. So I agree, we need to come, and maybe in the workshop, we can combine up questions for the survey. That would be a good thing, and,
Well, why don't we do this? Each one of us, we know we wanna do a survey. Let's compile a list of questions and get them to Chris.
okay.
Just email them to Chris and say, these are the questions I would like to see
Now, are
on
you
a Parks and
restricting
Rec
it?
survey.
Nope.
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec survey.
I don't think so. I think you open it up.
Pool renovation finished.
I don't think it's just
before
specific.
you
Just-
do that.
Parks. I think it's a waste of time if you're gonna send a survey out.
Okay, well,
I
put
somewhat
your-
can agree, but I,
Put your
Open it up.
questions in.
see what it is, just put your
Whatever,
questions in.
whatever you wanna poll the community on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put it in, and then we can weed it out from there, and I have no
Yes.
problem helping that.
It was a suggestion by Mr. Guy to wait till after our pool,
Renovation.
renovations is
That's,
finished,
that may
so,
not be a bad idea.
okay.
But that's
It'll take
gonna
us that
happen
long
quickly,
anyway.
Yeah, that, well, that's
Yeah.
kind of why I keep asking about dates and timelines, so we'll know what's being done, okay? The other thing is, Mr. Banks also mentioned communication, and when I first came on, I talked about communication. And I also said I would be willing to work with anyone to fill out, to make a newspaper or newsletter to go out. And that was, I suggested, and that's why I write the articles, so.
And those, a double-sided piece of paper can go in with our bills. They go out every other month, we can have a newsletter.
That'd be a good task for you, Mike.
It'll just depend on, if we have to pay them to print it.
Yeah, don't worry about printing costs. Let's say the budget is not an issue. What is the particular solution? Who would contribute? No, I mean, I think we get enough people, but someone would have to own it. I mean, so we'd love to see some options. That might be a good thing for you.
You're talking about the survey?
No, just a
No.
newsletter, quarterly newsletter, or monthly, whatever. We need just something we can
I
send
mean,
out.
we have a mechanism to get information to the residents. I know sometimes there's like a 1 or 2 line on my bill, but I don't think most people read it, actually,
Yeah,
to be
that's
honest
your
with you.
So
They're looking at the amount they have to pay.
So I did, and the other things were already discussed, the audited.
Okay.
Margaret, I had
We're
one.
finished.
I have one other one. It's sensitive, but we can't talk outside of this room.
That's true.
But what's going on here relative to where we're at with staffing? Is this a secret or something?
What are you
I'm hearing all
talking
kinds of stories. Where are we at with staffing? Are we making changes?
We've got 2 positions open.
Yeah,
That's the only thing I
You
know.
know something I don't know. What do you?
No,
what are
we've
the 2 positions?
we've got
We budgeted
a
for-
public works, and what's the other?
Stormwater.
Stormwater, public works and stormwater positions that are,
So-
Chris is actively recruiting for those 2 positions. That's the only thing I know.
So that infers that we have dropped an employee.
That I don't know.
we're
Well,
actively.
Public Works, we have a public works person.
We're actively seeking a replacement. Can I say that?
Well, I
You can
I
say-
don't know, all I'm just hearing the scuttlebutt, I wanna find out what's going on, because I can't talk during the week. And it all has to be out in the open.
You could refer the questions to me or Chris, if you.
Yeah. I know that we're actively seeking someone,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, we have
that's-
been, and you can just email me or talk to me.
And in that regard, I did mention to Chris that as he gets closer to identifying candidates, we need to come up with a process. Because I know that some of us, if not all, would be interested in having some one-on-one with these candidates. And maybe when it gets down to like the final 3 or whatever, especially I know you like to talk to everybody and you've got expertise in some of these areas, but we need to have a process because we can't all be reaching out to these candidates, without there being a proper process. So I think Chris was gonna bring that back and say, here's our hiring strategy. Here's the interview schedules. Maybe we'll do a panel with all the board members or whatever. But I think we all should have some input because these are going to be 2 really important jobs.
And
I wish we would have had them filled already.
Mrs. Larry?
Yes, the stormwater management is also supposed to be a maintenance person / maintenance. That's what Chris had said at one of the meetings, because we really do need somebody to do maintenance. I mean, we.
Inspection person.
Yeah.
Well, we need someone to do maintenance, because that's the problem around here.
They're gonna be cross-training. They're gonna be doing more and more cross-training, I believe. So,
I finished.
That's all I have.
okay, with that, I will adjourn this meeting. It is 6:38.
What,
Where's my sign sheet?
what's the permit number?